Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. It's another Friday, which brings to us another obscurity in literature. Although I don't know if this really constitutes as literature. I mean, yeah, it's a book, but there's not much in the way of actual text. And that is because this is the official art book for Langrisser Mobile. Langrisser, if you're not aware, is a long-running strategy game series that goes back, at least I can remember first catching glimpse of it on the Sega Mega Drive / Genesis under the title Warsong, but it's a, well-established strategy game that was pretty much a contemporary of Fire Emblem and is much of a major series in Japan, not so much in the States. I know Atlas and NIS have kind of tried to push it over the years. It never seemed to catch on as much, but I think it just wasn't the right time, unfortunately, for most US fans. One of the big things it always had was its piles and piles of scantily clad, well-endowed, well-drawn ladyfolk. Mostly thanks to a certain Satoshi Urushihara, who is quite renowned for his skill in drawing the female form, to put it bluntly. But no, the dude's actually a pretty good designer. I mean, I'm hands down, and his fashion sense screams over the top 80s, early 90s excess, which I love it. So this book was a no-brainer for me. Part of the reason is getting all of the artwork from across the series of all the characters is seriously a chore. Now, this isn't all actually drawn by Urushihara. In fact, I'm not even sure if most of it is. There's a few spot illustrations here and there, and we'll get into that. But this book primarily is focused on the artwork that comes from the mobile game. Like many modern, interpretations of long-running series, it's got a gacha game where you can gamble away your money for various outfits for all of these ladies who will fawn over you as you throw whatever items you spent your hard-earned paycheck on. Me, I've always been a long-standing free-to-play player, and I love gacha games, so I dig it. But actually, it's not a bad game. If you're interested in Langrisser stuff, I would probably point you to the remakes of 1 and 2. Very old school, nostalgic style. You can actually goof around with how things look if you want the old school retro styled artwork, if you want the modern stuff, if you want an old Mega Drive sounding soundtrack. That's my little hawk for that one. But anyways, let's take a look at the book. You'll notice it's a pretty hefty one. We're clocking in at almost 300 pages of artwork. And like I said, there's not much in the way of text. This is an average page. We have like a little quote from the character, and that's about it. These both being premium skins that you can pay for the characters if you're so into them that you feel you need to waste your hard-earned money. Here is Matthew, the primary character, and as you can see, he exhibits the long-standing classic Langrisser shoulder pads. The series just as a whole has such over-the-top designs in terms of armor and absolutely impossible to wear stuff, and I have loved it for it since I ever first encountered it. So we have, like, for each character, we get a little bit of blurb about them. We find out, the usual stats, height, weight, who their voice actor is, where they originate from, what is their official job title, because that was one of the other big things that kind of separated Langrisser from the pack, much like Fire Emblem would also carry on with in its own ways, but the whole job and upgrading system. But yeah, I don't know why, but Matthew's basic design here has always reminded me of the main guy from Grandia 2. I want to say his name was like Ryudo or Ryu, I don't remember. It's been ages since I played that, and I played that like back on the Dreamcast, so that's dating me. That's like, what, 2000 or something? I don't know. But anyway, so, most pages we get like a little emotion sheet there for how they're going to look. When we get into all the various skins, like we were saying, some are really ridiculous. Some are overtly sketchy in terms of what's going on there. Is she's got ripped up stockings and sloppy tentacles. No, I mean it's there's definitely some implied lewdness going on, but there's nothing, you know, that I would feel uncomfortable playing around my parents, I guess, as a kid. Well, maybe, but again, these are some of the original characters, and there's some cool costumes. I mean, there's no denying it. I really like some of these. Would I actually spend my own money? Probably not, but that's just me when it comes to gacha games. I'm not really into collecting skins. I do like seeing various characters, and I'll admit it, you know, you got sprites in your game, you got any kind of pixel work, here's a good chance I probably downloaded at one point. Look at the size of those shoulder pads. Menoth, eat your heart out. Exemplars wish they had stuff like that. It can dress as lightly as she. Look at this. Come on. Little girls with giant shoulder pads, hair that's longer than they are tall, and axes that are almost the size of their body. Yep. And hey, what do you know, an actual Urashihara illustration. So like I said, he has done a couple in the book. They are scattered around here and there, and it looks like that's the same outfit she's wearing there. Or at least pretty close to it. I thought she was actually from one of the games, but I guess not. It says she is from the mobile game. I haven't played it in a while. Honestly, it was tough, and when it comes to mobile games, a lot of times I want to turn my mind off and just kind of let the system overtake things and steamroll their way through whatever kind of missions I'm grinding away at. And when I have to actively think at it, I don't play it as often. Magus of the Tree. He's in the game now. Redden, the original protagonist. That is definitely some updated artwork. I remember his original. It wasn't that nice. Always some seasonal stuff in there. I do believe that this is put out by a Chinese, or at least co-produced company. Definitely some interesting skins there. But again, this is a much better way to view the art, if you appreciate that kind of stuff, than, you know, having it crammed on the screen. And at least this, you don't have to worry about the game going under. I was going to say these are not Grow-Lancer. Grow-Lancer actually would have been kind of cool. And that's one thing. It was kind of a sister game, a little bit of an offshoot, similar strategy, but way less opponents. Much more of a skirmish game, skirmish strategy than a big, massive battle like Langrisser usually is. But Grow-Lancer is one I'm actually surprised hasn't shown up in these games yet. There's another Urashihara illustration by the master. And then we get some of the bad guys who, you know, look at that. Look at that bad guy. Reminds me of the bad guy in, not Gadwin. Who is the villain in Lunar? He had similar funky 90s excessive straps. But I mean, look at these dudes. Like, GW Chaos Marauders would want to have dudes like this leading them. Look at that style. What's his name? Elwyn? I think it's Elwyn, yeah. Elwyn was from Langrisser 2, if you want to check out the remake, like I said. Obviously, he's not going to be playing in a baseball uniform, but you can imagine that. And I mean, I'm just flipping chunks of pages here. There are tons and tons of characters. And like I said, some more clothed than others. And that was the thing with Urashihara's artwork, is there's lots of asymmetry going on, you know, different size shoulder pads, things that look like eyeballs that are supposed to be gems, bandages and straps that really serve no purpose anywhere, you know, mismatched boots. I don't know what that's all about. Good old Leon. Look at the size of his shoulder pads. Look at the size of his swords. How are you supposed to fight with those even? I don't know, he's awesome in combat. Again, nice looking shoulders. One of my favorite guys. Bernhardt. Egbert. Come on, you know he's going to be a bad guy with a face and a hat like that. Now, the Halt was always kind of a cool looking dude. That's definitely some updated artwork, though. I remember his original hair being even wilder. Luna from number 3. Again, while these aren't necessarily the original depictions of some of them, they are pretty darn close. Rune was like 4? 3 or 4? 3. And it's funny because as you go the later games, the swords just get wilder and wilder. Scarves for days. Landius has some cool skins. Those are definitely eyeballs. You know, I should do a video on some of the other mobile game art books I have. Dude looks like he's wearing like a Xeon dress uniform. Where's the guy from 5? He had a wild look. It's a cool one for Angelina. See, again, straps, random colors, asymmetrical shoulder pads. Becomes a bit of a hallmark as the games go on. Weird ghost guys and dark elves. Sigma's from 5. For some reason, I always saw this girl, I always thought she was from Grow Lancer. Where's my dude? Look at Lane Force. Looking all Alucardish. Look at the size of his sword. It's ridiculous, and I'm here for it. Omega, and I want to say Rosalia's even from like the 3DS game, which I don't think was even that good. Now, I don't think this is the most up-to-date. It does not certainly have any of the crossover characters, if you're familiar with the game. Here's some of the cut-ins from like their skill scenes, which usually you only see just that band of their face. But it's kind of cool to see that they have the full artwork there. Default with his giant blades. And when you have your moments of declaring your love as some kind of, typical simulation, love simulator type game. A lot of the artwork for the banners when you have events coming out of the game. The goddess herself. Sadly, the one thing I feel that they're missing out on is the unit art. We don't see much in the way of like all the grunt troops, and I'm kind of disappointed about that. And maybe I'm just spoiled with like some of the Grand Blue Fantasy books, because we'll have to do a whole day on that. Grand Blue Fantasy has a ridiculous amount of books put out on just the artwork alone. Hell, the sprites alone. We'll save that one though. So I think it's kind of cool if you dig the Langrisser artwork, if you like Orochihara's work, if you like the game, if you like just ogling, scantily clad anime girls. I mean, there's always the internet for that. But if you want it in a nice, well put together book that is pretty comprehensive of just about everything that was released in the game around the time this has been published for a much more reasonable price, and you're not having to gamble your money away, and you're going to have this when the game eventually shuts down too. So to me, that's kind of an added bonus. Definitely keep your eyes peeled, but you're probably going to have to go looking to get this imported. I have not seen this anywhere in the States yet, and if you find one in the States, consider yourselves lucky. So instead, I'm just going to put a link to the game, even though it's been out for a while, and I know it's not cheap, but I'll see if I can find a link for you guys. So with that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.